Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ark episode 21. Christmas is around the corner, and obviously everyone's thinking, okay, look, I've got a bit of money in my bank account, what do? Everyone's thinking about holidays, they're sitting with their friends, their family, they want 2025 to be a big year for them. Everyone's hugging, everyone's kissing on New Year's Eve. Imagine yourself there, and you're thinking, okay, if I want 2025 to be a generationally changing thing for me, my kids, my family, so that I can come into some prosperity and so that I can kind of rebuild myself after the COVID years, how can I do that? Now, a lot of people, some of them look at gold, some of them look at crypto, some of them look at land, stocks trading, but they're not quite sure where to start. Now, over this period of time, I do hope to do more of these podcasts rather than the politics over the next couple of months, because politics tends to just go a little bit more quiet. So today I'm going to be talking about crypto. Now, this is the very first time I've talked about this topic because it is a highly sensitive topic. You know, you never invest more than what you're willing to lose. You hear a lot of horror stories, but you hear a lot of very good stories. Well, to help me meander through this particular topic, I've got Bisher from Stormrake. Stormrake is a company that is actually a portfolio management company with regards to cryptocurrencies. But before I get started, I did just want to say a couple things with regards to disclaimers for this particular show. The first thing is, I need you all to make sure that my comments today, they're not financial advice. This is the first time I've talked on crypto. And the reason for that is there are often accounts online that directly message you impersonating me. This happens with people like Graham Hood. It happens with Bishop Murray. I will never message you directly and sell you something in terms of crypto. The only time I'll talk to on crypto is a video of me like this, and it'll be by me sending you to people like that are professionals, like Bisher from Stormrake. But today is about education. It's about better understanding the topic. It's basically a crypto traders thing for dummies. And I'm really hoping to give you guys a lot more optimism about 2025. Because what's been going on in America since Trump's election has been huge. We've been seeing Bitcoin go up 10,000 every week since the win of Donald Trump. It's cracked 150,000 Aussie dollars per one Bitcoin. And we're seeing a lot of exciting news breaking. Trump's looking into having a strategic Bitcoin reserve, having potentially 1 million Bitcoins in the US reserve, as almost like with the central bank over there. This is going to be really interesting to see where things are going. And a lot of people are taking another look at it. Are we seeing legislation come down the pipeline? Are we going to see cryptocurrencies become more of a stable sort of asset with regards to storing people's wealth, or a place to actually build generational wealth? That's what this podcast is about. So if you're at all interested in Stormrake, click the link in my bio. You can create a new account with Stormrake. But without further ado, leave your questions on Rumble. I've already had a bunch of questions come in right now on Rumble. Click the link in my bio to see our Rumble, and you can ask some questions. I've already had one on taxes and everything.
Never ask your crypto broker about taxes.
That's right.
That's a bad choice.
Amen. Well, look, Bisher, mate, please tell me what got you into cryptocurrencies. We're going to go through everything here, but I'm really excited that you're joining me finally in studio.
Absolutely.
Mate, tell me about yourself. Tell me about Stormrake and what got you into all of this.
Awesome. So my journey in cryptocurrency goes back about 8 years now. I got stuck into it in 2016. I come from a foreign exchange trading background, so I traded FX pairs like Aussie dollar, euro, things of that nature. And that gave me a really good education on financial markets, but all fiat currencies are destined to fail in some capacity. And so you're just trading pretty much one worthless fiat currency for another. What is 0 divided by 0? It's still 0. 0 times 0 is 0, right? Because there's zero value in all of this stuff. So it's very hard for a lot of people, because I was an FX broker, to try to price and value these things. They'd use things like macroeconomic indicators, technical charts, indicators, but they were never really able to get ahead. And so I was online on forums, always looking at ways as to how can I be more successful trading FX? I want to give good trade ideas to my clients. And I kept coming across Bitcoin on online forums, talking about what you should be trading if you're looking for volatility, if you're looking for growth. So I started going down that rabbit hole. Initially, I myself was very dismissive of it. I'm like, who wants to go into a magical internet money that's just like backed by nothing. And then I was like, you know what? It's actually not backed by nothing. It's backed by this entire, energy infrastructure that's required to mine Bitcoin. So I was like getting more and more down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, if you will. And so I did my first investment back in 2016. I moved into the industry as a crypto broker in 2019. It was a very easy transition moving from foreign exchange brokerage to crypto brokerage. And ever since then, we've been building up the Stormrake crypto brokerage for the last 5 years, which has been simply amazing to kind of see how that's been going along. And now what we do is we help our clients buy, sell, and swap crypto, similar to the way you'd probably deal with a crypto exchange. But rather than going down a platform route, which everybody has a platform these days. You came with me to the crypto convention.
Yeah, over the weekend. It wasn't that huge. A few thousand, what was it, 15,000 people or something?
Yeah,
10,000 people.
Nothing crazy. Just
nothing
10,000
crazy,
people.
just 10,000 people. It was awesome.
It was.
You had bull riding, you had people hitting the hammer, there was these giveaways. It was an amazing conference. And I think, as you said, it was a little bit more bustling this year because Bitcoin had cracked 150K.
Correct. So it was the bull run is happening, and obviously we're going to see some massive continuation of that in 2025. More on that throughout the show. But really what it came down to is that we don't want to have another platform available in the market. I want to be different in the sense that I want to provide a service, right? Because, back in the day, your father, my father, our grandfathers, they would have traded using a stockbroker by picking up the phone or sending them some sort of letter. And it's just old school, right? Of course, we want to be able to make sure you get in a timely manner. So my team is online 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Crypto is the only market that never stops. So when the rest of the global financial markets goes to sleep over the Christmas period, cryptocurrency is still going to be humming and running, right? So it's incredibly liquid and it's always available, which is what I love as well. So for us at Stormrake, we provide a service where you can just simply pick up the phone or send us an email and we can purchase your assets, or we can sell them, send it back to your bank account, do all kinds of things there.
And we're going to get to that in a second, but one thing that's very unique about Stormrake, guys, that you don't see with other, because you're like, okay, well, why Stormrake, Joel? One thing I love about Stormrake, correct me if I'm wrong, is you can actually convert your crypto directly into gold, right?
Correct.
So most people, they would have to go crypto into their bank account into gold, and you're like, no. Crypto directly to gold.
Correct.
And tell me about that, please.
Yeah, I'm glad that you even you're such a sponge. You remember everything. I say one throwaway comment and you retain it. So thanks to my good mate Sam from Liberty Bullion. He owns a bullion dealer in Melbourne. We were able to have one of the first facilities in the country where you can convert your cryptocurrency into precious metals and your precious metals into cryptocurrency without having to touch a bank account.
Wow.
So really awesome stuff. I love this because we want to move away from the banks. I despise them, right? I'm happy to put that out on record.
That's a winner for the audience.
Yeah,
They'll be like, I love this guy, Joel. Where did you find Bisher? Mate, Lebos.
Yeah,
we travel in a gaggle.
I don't trust them, and this is what's really insidious is that you work incredibly hard for your dollars, right? That they just print, but they tax you on it, and then what they can't take from you in taxes, they take away from you in inflation, and then after whatever pittance is left over, the bank tells you how, when, where you can spend your money, which is absolute insanity to me. So, yeah.
And by the way, just to go on the, and again, this isn't your shtick or your crusade, but I'm sure you agree. Like, who is the World Economic Forum and the banks? They're starting to bring in these targets. Like, you can only have this amount of money spent on meat a year. You're only allowed this amount of travel or one flight per year. I mean, these things are actual targets with the 2030 agenda that they're heading towards.
Right.
And there's a lot of people in our audience, pretty much everyone in our audience, they're like, I don't want you telling me what to do with my money. That's my money.
Correct.
And to make matters worse, in the Australian context, and I'll talk to the audience about this, we have had situations where people have tried to transfer large sums of money for business transactions, especially people in the gambling industry. And the banks are holding it up because of anti-money laundering laws. And this has now started to... See, I'm very passionate about this.
Yeah, as you should be.
This is people's money. And they're like, that's my money. You're not allowed to get in the way of my business that's doing a very normal trade, plumbing or whatever, and not allow me to actually... you hold up these transfers for up to 2 months. I was talking to a friend over at Fundo. He does lending services, short-term lending services. I went to school with this guy who was 3 years above me, Bisher. And on the podcast, he said to me, Joel, our bank account's about to be closed down because of these anti-money laundering laws that came into effect this year. And the banks are over-correcting. So that is sort of the backdrop with regards to people being sick of the government, being in their lives. And it sounds like from a capitalistic perspective, you guys are all like, well, here's a potential solution. This is what we're doing. Crypto directly into gold, and we'll manage your crypto fund. I think it's brilliant. I take my hat off to you, man.
I appreciate it, man. And the great thing about what we do at Stormrake as well, guys, is that we provide full self-custody services as well. So if you want to use us as your custodian and you want to hold your assets with us, I'd be privileged to do so. We hold about $100 million worth of client assets at the moment as a custodian. But if you want to withdraw and you want to hold your Bitcoin, your crypto assets in your own private wallet, you can, right? This is the beauty of BTC. This is the beauty of digital assets, is that it's sovereign money. So what you've got in a bank account, ladies and gentlemen, it's not money, it's currency. And you do not control that currency, right? Ultimately, that is controlled by the government, and it's controlled by the central banks, and it's controlled by the commercial banks. You do not have any control of that currency, right? You don't have a control of anything. And so even though you can log in and view your balances, that's about the extent of it, right? Whereas with Bitcoin, it's true sovereign money. It is the what's going to liberate us in the next 50 to 100 years. And of course, in that, you are going to become incredibly wealthy as well. So it's got that upside too. But it's insanity in the fact that people think that what they have in a bank account is money. It's not. It's currency. And you don't control it. You don't own it. You need to get onto a Bitcoin standard, because that's the easiest way to liberate yourself from the shackles of a government, from the shackles of government overreach, or you know, the government is actually one layer. Then you've got obviously WEF and all that other stuff on top of it, central banks. That's the easiest way. You just got to vote and opt out with your wallet, because the longer you remain opted into the system with Aussie dollars, US dollars, you're just destined and setting yourself up for failure, unfortunately.
Bisher, let's take a step back. There's going to be people listening right now, and they're like, all right, Bisher, I'm with you, mate. This is perfect. Here's the problem. This is exactly the sort of thing we need, and this is the potential solution you put forward. I don't know anything about crypto. What the hell? Isn't Bitcoin crypto? Isn't the same thing? I wanted to just go back to some fundamentals to go from the absolute scratch so people understand, so they don't feel left out. Because I know there's a lot of people here that are the majority or above 40, 45, and they're like, okay, I get it, Joel, but I just feel a little bit more safer with land and with stocks and with bonds. And I want to go back because I want to give people a bit more of an understanding of exactly what crypto is. And this is, again, you're going to laugh at how basic this is. Because obviously you're going to meet everyone where they're at. If we can just bring up this page, this is CoinSpot, so you can actually see, guys, these different cryptocurrencies. They're ranked in order of the biggest coin to the smallest coin, essentially. Now,
I suggest we bring up CoinGecko.com instead, because it'll be a lot more relevant, because it's don't mind CoinSpot, but yeah, go to CoinGecko.com.
No worries, absolutely.
And what's really cool about this is that you can toggle between USD and AUD prices.
Oh, okay.
So if you scroll up to the top, obviously we're looking here at USD prices. There's a little settings one in the right-hand corner. You can switch which currency you review your coin in as well. But in any case, this is really good stuff here. So
awesome.
That's what I want to focus on.
Right. So what we're looking at now is the USD value of each of these prices of the coins. Now, one thing very basic I wanted to cover for people is you have basically what are the three tiers of coins? You've got the
like we call them blue chips.
Blue chips.
Yep.
And then what's the next one?
Altcoins.
Altcoins.
And then shitcoins.
And then shitcoins. All right. So the blue chips, obviously Bitcoin being the largest one, being the most relatively stable one, as compared to Tether's pretty stable. It's sort of pinned to the US dollar.
It's pegged to the US dollar value.
Pegged to the US dollar value. So which ones would you say out of these are in the blue chip?
So first of all, I would just like to make a distinction that Bitcoin is in a category and an elite tier in and of itself, right? Because BTC is the king, it's the best asset, and then it's the most decentralized as well. So it means that the likelihood of anybody getting access to your funds is zero. Whereas the other ones, they're a little bit more centralized. There's a little bit more risk there. But anyways, in terms of the blue chips, I would probably rank it as like Ethereum, Solana, XRP. Most of the top 10 I would consider in that blue chip category.
Sure.
Altcoins would be, things that have got potential.
Alternative coins, by the way, for people listening.
Alternative coins. Things that have got potential, room for a lot of growth. One that I'm particularly bullish on right now is SUI. SUI is the symbol for that. You can see it there as well in the CoinGecko rankings. I think it's like number 20 or 21. So that's what I'd be looking at. In terms of shitcoins, though, there's 15,000 different coins.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
Absolute insanity in terms of how many there things are. And that's what I think can oftentimes overwhelm people is that how do I even get started? What am I getting onto? Like, it just seems like it's so confusing. And I'm here to really demystify and simplify what cryptocurrency is. Crypto is money. Bitcoin in particular is the most sovereign form of money that we can have access to. Now, other coins, they do different things. Like they're more, I see them more as like speculative tech stocks, right? Where there's a lot of room for growth, a lot of room for upside, a lot of volatility. And don't get me wrong, volatility is a great thing. Oftentimes people hear it and they have like negative connotations. But volatility is great because that's what helps your portfolio value grow through the roof. And you just got to manage the downside risk so you don't lose it all. So more onto what we're talking about here is really simple. Bitcoin is money, right? And it allows us to be able to transact with each other, to be able to support each other's endeavors. So like, for example, you and I can move half a Bitcoin, which is like a 75 grand between ourselves with nobody else involved, which is really powerful. So that's really what it comes down to. So if we were to strip it all back, Bitcoin is money. And oftentimes people ask me questions like, oh, well, I'd invest in it, but I just don't know how it works. Like, ladies and gentlemen, look at this phone, right? Look at this MacBook. None of us know how this thing works. It's a wonder of modern technology, right? But you just know how to use it. So that's what I want to advise people on in terms of when they do come to us and they want to start their crypto journey is don't get too obsessed with wondering how the blockchain works, how it works. Just know how to use it because, most people get into their car in the morning, they start the thing. They don't know how the combustion engine works, right? They don't know how a battery EV vehicle works. They just know how to use it. So that's what I always tell people. Don't get caught up in the nuts and bolts of wondering how it works. Just wonder and discover how to use it. And the easiest way is get invested and put it into your own wallet.
Yeah, guys. If you're listening live, please ask us some questions. Whether you're on YouTube or any other platform. If you're on Rumble, for some reason Rumble hasn't gone up, I will upload this later so that you guys can actually see that. But when it comes to questions, we're getting a lot of questions coming through. But just going back to it, when it comes to people seeing this as Bitcoin is one of the more stable coins, it is still quite a volatile. I mean, this time last year, maybe mid last year, it was about 45, 50,000 Aussie dollars.
Yeah, I mean, year on year growth, it's grown 161%, and year to date, it's up 130% year to date, which is pretty astonishing.
Yeah, and a lot of people, they're going to probably be listening to this and thinking, okay, well, this is all fun and well, but what about the legalities around this? We did see Senator Andrew Bragg from the Liberal Party go to the crypto conference over the weekend in Sydney. And where does this all stand? Why is Australia dragging its feet on it? Obviously, America is catching up as well. But people are looking for confidence, especially around legislation. Do you have any information with regards to where all that is?
It's really interesting to me when people look for the government for approval on what to invest in, yet they're anti-government.
Yeah, it is funny, isn't it?
It is very funny. I'm like, that's comical. Why do you want the government to tell you what is good and what isn't? And then you get the confidence to make an investment into alternative assets. I see Bitcoin similar to the way I see gold and silver. It can't be regulated, right? The asset itself cannot be regulated. What you can regulate, though, is the providers, right? Because we're an Australian business, and I'm not against regulation. I'm not saying that, I don't want to have any rules or whatever it is, but by its very nature, Bitcoin is a network similar to the internet, right? The internet is a network. You can't regulate the internet. You can regulate the service providers, you can regulate all of those kind of things, but you can't regulate the internet itself. It's the same way you can't regulate Bitcoin itself. So, and I recommend to all your listeners to not look to the government for advice on what is a good and what is not a good investment, because they do not have your interests at heart. So yeah, just thought I'd put that out there.
Yeah.
The reason why there's a lot of, I guess, dragging your feet is that it's very hard to categorize this asset class because it's got properties similar to currencies where it's got a means of exchange. It's got similar properties to commodities such as gold and silver where there's store of value and so on. And then it's also got like equity-like or asset-like properties where there's sometimes yield that can be generated off these investments, which are obviously got their own risks. So there's multiple categories in which this asset could sit in, but it at the same time, although it does touch on all of them, those potential categories, it's still its own beast. So that's why it's a bit hard for the government or any regulator to try to regulate this. But again, guys, do not look to your government for investment advice and approval on what is and what isn't a good investment. Bitcoin is money, and it's the most sovereign thing you can own in your investment portfolio, second to probably gold and silver. But still, the main point that I'm trying to make is that yes, there's a lot of risk involved, and there's a lot of volatility, but risk is a good thing. Volatility is a good thing, right? I don't want people to get concerned by it. You can't get, like Bitcoin, for example, in a 8-year period has gone up 150x in 8 years. Okay, you put $1,000 Aussie in, you're sitting on $150,000 right now. And even if you invested 2,000 Australian dollars a month into Bitcoin over 8 years, you'd have now close to 3.2 million Australian dollars, and that's just at $2,000 Aussie a month. So don't get concerned too much about the volatility, and I certainly wouldn't want to get too concerned about the government regulators, because although we as a business have to be concerned about it in terms of what regulatory requirements we need to make, what we need to meet, that's all on us, and we will meet them whenever the time comes for us to abide by any sort of regulatory framework that comes out. I welcome it, but at the same time, for most investors, BTC is a perfectly safe asset to invest in with no issues.
After the US election, we saw this story drop from Trump. I mean, obviously, there was the story about Trump going to the Libertarian Conference. He actually said to them, look, I am totally against central bank digital currencies. I don't want to see it. He wants America to be the cryptocurrency capital of the world as well. And he also, more recently in the last week, basically made the point that, he believes there should be a Bitcoin strategic reserve as a game changer to protect America and its financial reserves, rather than having, the sort of central bank. It sounds like he wants to get rid of the American Federal Reserve, which is kind of an interesting, comment to make.
It's an interesting story to follow, that's for sure. But I sent you something on our messages. It's called the Bitcoin Act 2024. It's a fantastic image to actually bring up for people to understand what we're talking about here and just to help digest it. But essentially, there's a piece of legislation that is most likely going to be put forward when the government gets formed on January 20th. President-elect Donald Trump is putting forward a very pro-Bitcoin cabinet at the moment. So he's electing Howard Lutnick into his cabinet as well. Selected Howard Lutnick into his cabinet, and this guy is very pro-Bitcoin. Right, and he's going to be looking after the commerce and a bit of Treasury Department as well. So this is really insane stuff. Senator Loomis, who I believe is in the senator for Wyoming, she's put forward the Bitcoin Act that we've brought up on screen. Right. And that kind of stuff is actually cool. So what you're going to see is the stabilization of Bitcoin as money and Bitcoin as a sovereign reserve asset for the US government to be able to I guess, bring back confidence to the US dollar, essentially.
Well, let me read this out. So, step 1, establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve, establish decentralized network of secure Bitcoin storage facilities distributed across America. Step 2, Bitcoin purchase program, purchasing 200,000 Bitcoins per year for 5 years. So eventually, obviously, 1 million Bitcoin in total, and hold it for a minimum 20 years. That is a huge stabilization thing. Number 3, proof of reserve system. Publish quarterly reports audited by independent third party and cryptographic attestation. Step 4 is consolidate current holdings, all Bitcoin held by the agencies to be transferred to the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Step 5 is voluntary state participation. States can participate voluntarily by depositing to/withdrawing from segregated accounts. Step 6, offsetting costs. The first $6 billion of the Federal Reserve's net earnings each year will go to the SBR. The Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, I'm assuming?
Yes, correct.
And step 7 is protect Bitcoin property rights, affirms rights of self-custody. US government can't seize or confiscate lawfully owned Bitcoin. Wow. I think anyone that's looking, for some sort of assurance at America being this sort of, the engine house financially of the world, looks at that and is like, wow, that is really a pivot to a new system.
The simplest way I can describe it is if you don't buy Bitcoin, you're destined for poverty.
Yeah.
Right? It's a really harsh statement, and I do not take any joy in making it. But Bitcoin is going to be one of the biggest wealth transformation events of our lifetime. Collectively over the last 5,000 years, different civilizations have kind of agreed on gold and silver as money. You had, Chinese societies, Arab societies, you had European societies across different times and eras, all kind of coalesced around gold and silver being money, right? And that's how we saw value for a very long period of time, and I still see it like that. But Bitcoin, it's becoming that kind of collective understanding of value, which we had all kind of agreed upon 5,000 years ago, in different ways, shapes, and forms. So this is really interesting stuff. And what we're seeing here is the US is kind of just recognizing how inevitable Bitcoin is. And again, you got to understand that for the US government, the main thing that they're trying to do by forming this Bitcoin reserve isn't to just, pump up the price of Bitcoin. It's to actually bring in and shore up confidence in the US dollar. Because when the US government seized Russia's foreign exchange reserves during the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, that was the first time in history where a world superpower, which has control of the world reserve currency, had then seized another nation state's foreign exchange reserves. Like even, for example, when the British and the Germans were destroying each other in the Battle of the Somme during World War I, their foreign exchange reserves were not touched, right? So that goes to show you how important it was not to mess around with other nation states' financial assets, even though that they were, in a full-blown world war, and there was a lot at stake. So this was a pivotal moment in world financial history, and a lot of people wanted to, a lot of nations, I should say, not people. A lot of nations were looking to de-dollarize and wanted to move away from the US dollar. Whether you're looking at Gulf states, whether you're looking at China, whether you're looking at the BRICS nations like Brazil, Russia, India, China, they wanted to move away from dollars. This is the easiest way to bring confidence back into the US dollar, is to be backing it by Bitcoin, which is this sovereign neutral monetary network. And amongst other things, of course, the value will go up because they're looking to buy 200,000 Bitcoins a year. The Bitcoin network can only produce 140,000 Bitcoins at current rates. If it was to go full hog, it can only produce 140,000 Bitcoins over the next couple of years. So one buyer, the US government, is going to buy up more than the entire network can produce. Just one buyer. There's not enough supply to meet the demand. Therefore, basic economics 101, price moves up to service higher demand and a fixed supply asset.
This is nuts. Ramy, did you have something to say?
I was just wondering about China and the BRICS. Are they thinking about Bitcoin, or are they thinking about a digital currency, maybe something of their own? I don't know.
Well, the China already has the digital yuan that's already exists for now. However, China in 2021 banned Bitcoin mining and Bitcoin transactions. But quite recently, in fact, just over the weekend, they came out and said that Bitcoin investing and trading is now legal because they're realizing the massive strides that the US is making towards having Bitcoin as part of their US Treasury, part of their reserves. They're like, okay, if we don't get onto this thing, we're going to get absolutely smoked financially, because for a long time, the balance of trade, the balance of financial power has been shifting east, right? And China has been claiming a lot of that. And but nobody would want to ever hold their wealth in Chinese yuan. Like nobody trusts the yuan, right? So the easiest way they can kind of go up and continue to remain relevant on a global financial scale, outside of being a manufacturing power center, they can actually go out and also adopt a similar standard. And now all of a sudden you have nation states competing to buy Bitcoin. So I like to try to explain it in like a couple of year cycles, like 2017, 2018, when I was really into it, when I was first like properly getting into it. That was the time of like individuals and retail investors getting into Bitcoin and crypto. Then 2020, 2021 rolled around. That's when Wall Street and major financial institutions started to come into Bitcoin and crypto. Now in 2024 and in 2025, we're starting to see entire nation states get involved. So you can see every 4 years, the level of participation is increasing, going from the individual on Main Street to the institutions on Wall Street, and now to nation states in massive centers such as DC and Beijing. So yeah, and all you have to do to be able to participate in this incredible financial revolution is just have a couple of stones and go out and buy some Bitcoin.
Again, everyone that's listening and hearing all these ringtones come through, it's because we literally had a big conference on the weekend. Bisher, I saw him working the people coming across there on one of the more quiet days, but day one was intense. Yep. It was like 50 people at one time, basically, around the stall, talking to him and the team there. But if you want to create an account with Stormrake, click the link in my bio, click the link in the description, and get started. Now, let's go to that. Yep. Let's go to that. Let's say that I'm okay, Joel, makes sense. It sounds like, there's that sort of assurance. It sounds like there's, 200,000 Bitcoins every year from the US government is nuts. And everyone else piling on top of that as well. Yep. And the institutions that will also pour on top of that as well. And obviously a lot more talk from superannuation funds looking at it as a more stable sort of asset. It's like, okay, there is a generational shift here. There is a huge pivot financially here. And we're about to see a lot of big money, smart money jump in. I mean, I would argue the smart money is already in there. But there's a lot of big money, institutional money that's about to jump in on this thing. Let's say it's, all right, Bisher, all right, Joel, I'm in. Let's do this thing. Here's 100K, just because it's an easy number to work with. Here's 100K. I go to your website. I create an account. And what value does Stormrake bring to my portfolio? Why am I better off not just dumping it into Bitcoin and doing it myself?
Well, you could always do it yourself. I never say that you can't do it yourself, but look, it's a new asset class, and as a broker, we want to be able to provide our clients with a level of professional services that they just wouldn't otherwise do it, right? If, for example, the lights are a bit flickery and they're going out in your house, you're going to call an electrician, you're going to get a professional to come in and fix that up, right? You're not going to go out there and do it yourself, even though you might potentially watch a YouTube video and go, hey, this kind of makes sense, I might be able to do it myself. You're going to hurt yourself potentially. And we've heard countless horror stories of people trying to do it themselves, and then they end up losing their entire investment, and then they reach a conclusion that crypto is a scam, right? But all that they did was just, invest the wrong way, or they didn't hold their private keys correctly, and just, becomes a bit of a nightmare. So what we want to provide as a Stormrake crypto broker is a full end-to-end service for you to be able to buy, sell, swap. And then if you want to withdraw and you want to hold your assets in your own Bitcoin wallet, you certainly can. This is the beauty of what we provide. We just provide you a handheld white glove concierge service right up until the time that you choose to complete the transaction and choose to withdraw. Withdrawing doesn't end our agreement in terms of how we can serve you. So let's say you open an account, thanks to Joel's link in the show notes. You get that all up and running within less than 24 hours. I encourage you to do so. we charge a 2% transaction fee to do business with us. So on a $100,000 investment, we'll retain $2,000 for services rendered, and you'll walk away with $98,000 worth of Bitcoin. The reason why I'd want to do it with us as opposed to an exchange is that exchanges, even the major Australian ones, they charge a massive spread, a massive price markup. I'm just going to bring this up here because I want to be able to talk some numbers for the audience, right? So that way you know that I'm the real deal. So for example, right now, the spot price of BTC AUD is about 148,477. Whereas if you look at a major Australian exchange, I won't name names, they're showing about 150,997 at the moment. So that's the price that they're showing. And if I look at that compared to where we are now, and I go up to 150,997, 1 second, here we go, ladies and gentlemen, they're charging about a 1.75% spread, plus they'll charge you commission on top of that. So again, massive price markup. You're not getting the actual best execution price. Whereas what I provide, you don't even have to take my word for it. I'm sure you'll come to know that you can trust everything I say, but you don't have to take my word for it. You can log in or, check out most Australian exchanges. What price are they showing you for Bitcoin AUD? And they're charging anywhere from a 1.5 to a 3% spread or markup on the price. Whereas I don't do any of that. We charge a flat commission, so you know exactly what your cost of business is going to be when you come to us. Plus, we look after this, the whole transaction for you. So rather than giving you higher prices and a poor quality of service or a lower quality of service, we give you the best execution price and a full handheld service. So that's why people would want to come to us, and then we can help you manage the sale so that if there are any assets that need to be sold and end up in your bank account, we can do that for you. And we've got a suite of 1,000 different cryptos that we can help you build your portfolio around.
One of the obvious things I can see is it's nice to be able to pick up the phone and talk to someone.
100%.
Especially in a digital world, there's no one to talk to. Especially with something so finicky like wallets and keys, you want a guide to do this, and it's also professionally you want to have someone that can actually run that through. Do you guys actually hold that as a service in your own wallets, or?
So there's two ways you can choose to work with us. You can either choose to custody with Stormrake, and you can be one of 3,000 clients that and about $100 million worth of assets are held with us. So that's perfectly fine. Now, if you wish to withdraw, it's super easy. It's super straightforward. All you need to do is just give me your public wallet address. You send it over to us. We send you a test transfer first and foremost to make sure that you've sent us the wallet correctly. And then once you confirm it's received, we send the full balance. And we process tens of millions of dollars worth of transactions per day with no issues, because of a really thorough testing process. And my clients also have a bit of a mixed approach where they will start off, custodying with Stormrake for 6 months, a year, just to kind of, get the exposure, because the time is now. I don't want you guys to get stressed out about, what am I going to do? How am I going to hold it? Which wallet am I going to use? And then never make an investment. That would be a disaster. I'd much rather help you guys get allocated, get invested, and then later on down the road, as you've learned how to set up a Bitcoin wallet on your phone, which takes you, less than 2 minutes, so it's easy to do, then you send me your public wallet address. We can transfer your assets to you, no problems. And this is the beauty of BTC and other digital assets, is it reaches final or instant settlement within seconds or minutes. Whereas if you go and sell stock in your stockbroker's account, right, it takes sometimes 2 or 3 days for the funds to settle and clear into your account. It's T+1 or T+2 when they usually clear and settle, whereas you can reach full and instant finality of the settlement into your account with us within less than 24 hours. I had a gentleman come to me recently who wanted to take some risk off the table. He wanted to sell $1.2 million AUD worth of Ethereum. We did that for him, bang, and it was in his account within half an hour. So
I've seen this.
Yeah,
I've seen this.
You don't have that kind of level of service and accessibility in any traditional financial services. You mentioned bonds before. They're a garbage asset. They're trash. Do not hold bonds. Yeah. That is not financial advice, though. You can do whatever you want.
Of course.
And that's why I'm really bullish on this space, is that I know how quick and easy it is to get access to financial wealth, and these assets can move at breakneck speed to be able to, for you to do whatever you want to do with them.
Absolutely. I was going to say, going back to the 100K example, for example, it's like, okay, no worries, Bisher, here's 100K. 98,000 will be traded, on my behalf, me as the sort of, obviously the person that has the money and is giving it to you and whatever, to what extent can someone say, Bisher, I don't want to see this money for 2 years. To what extent can they say, I want you to do a stable approach with the trading, or I want there to be more of a high growth, higher risk approach? To what extent do you guys offer that as a service?
Yeah, so we provide tailored insights, advice, strategies to our clients that can help you achieve your goals. But if you're coming to me with, say, with like a self-managed superannuation fund or a trust account, family trust, I would definitely be advising and recommending that you hold Bitcoin predominantly, because Bitcoin is a perfect asset to hold in a retirement fund. There will be nothing that can outperform BTC over any meaningful period of time. It's been the best performing asset in financial markets the last 10 years.
Yep.
It'll also be the best performing asset of the next 10 years ahead, even though there will be corrections and pullbacks along the way. That volatility will be thoroughly rewarded with the upside you're going to receive. So perfectly designed for that. If you're coming to me with, say, like a corporate account or a personal account that you just want to be able to turn over a little bit more and get some more growth on, this is the reason why our brokerage service exists. And I'll pick up the phone and be like, hey guys, this is what I'm bullish on, this is what I'm focusing on right now. Look, these are the assets I'm looking to get rid of, this is the assets I'm looking to pick up. Consider it very similar to what you'd have with a stock brokerage service, just instead of talking about BHP and Rio, I'm talking about BTC and ETH, right?
Yeah.
Very similar service.
Sure. Yeah, I'm very much interested in that, because I think there's going to be a lot of people that are like, you know what, Joel, I just want something where I just want to hold it there. And there's also going to be other people that are like, you know what, Joel, I'm pretty well off. I've got about, I've got a $2.5 million property. And again, there's a lot, people that are listening, they're probably like, Joel, those people don't exist. They exist. There are I think Sydney has some of the most millionaires. I think it's one of the biggest cities with the most millionaires in the world, which is nuts. And it's because there's so many really wealthy property owners. A lot of people in property that do actually own their house outright. They've got a spare 100K to throw around, and they're like, I don't need this for like 2 to 4 years. And again, you'll see profits sooner, but they're like, no worries. If I don't see this for 2 years, no worries, just lock it away. They do want to have a bit more of a higher risk approach, but that can also mean higher rewards as well. And I think I'm just very curious what that might look like, because I mentioned the different categories of cryptocurrencies. Correct me if I'm wrong. Does sometimes that portfolio management look like 50% of the portfolio, 100K, is in Bitcoin, a bit of it's in the blue chip coins, a bit of it's in the altcoins, and then obviously none. I don't think you touch the shit coins. I don't think you touch them at all.
Look, like people come to me with the craziest requests. Like I had somebody come to me recently and they wanted to buy Rocky the dog token. They wanted to buy Klaus token.
Klaus token.
So it was all kinds of stuff. It's insanity in my space, in my world. But for people who are coming, who are like wealthy property owners, or people who are looking to even make it, right? You might be like a hardworking 9-to-5 battler. That's my kind of background. I grew up in the commission housing of Melbourne, so I know what it's like, the need to make next week even better than this week. You might be willing to take on more risk. You just need to add Bitcoin in the lion's share of your portfolio, and you'll be wealthier than most people, because there's almost this like ginormous push for like instant gratification. I need it now. I need you to put in 100K. I need to be like successful now. So, which is, I can appreciate that demand, that desire, but I just, the example you gave of give me 2 to 4 years is magic. If you give me 2 to 4 years with crypto and with Bitcoin in particular, I am going to supercharge your portfolio returns. And we don't have to take on that much risk. So a lot of people look at Bitcoin at 150,000 Australian dollars and think that they've missed the boat, right? Oh, it's 150K AUD per Bitcoin. Job's done. I got to look at somewhere else in the crypto space to get some growth, get some price appreciation. I'm here to tell you guys that is not the case. You couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, I sent you a slide deck. I shared it at the Aussie Crypto Convention. I want to bring that one up.
Yeah, here we
because it's really important that people understand how Bitcoin is going to work over the next 4 to 8 years, because there's a genuine investment case here that would outperform any ETFs, any index funds, any kind of mutual fund. That's going to just outperform it. So this is a checkerboard quilt. I'm going to run you guys by it. At the top in white is Bitcoin. Every 3 years, it is the king, right? Nothing even comes close to it. But then, yeah, it's marked with periods of volatility, for example, which I can appreciate and understand. That might scare people, but the volatility is just the repricing of Bitcoin, so that people understand that we are. Before I dive into the checkerboard quilt, I just want to separate two things, which is Bitcoin, the asset, which is what people hear about in the news, the headline that captures the headlines. That's Bitcoin, the asset. That's the price chart that people are always referring to. Bitcoin, the network, is one of the most sovereign things on the planet, and it can't be controlled. And for anybody who says, oh, Bitcoin's a Ponzi or Bitcoin's a scam, that couldn't be, you're incredibly wrong. Reason being is that Bitcoin works whether it's got a price of $1, it'll work at a price of 10,000, 100,000, a million, and if it goes from a million to 500K, the network still works. There's not a single Ponzi scheme on the planet that can have multiple 80% drawdowns or corrections in price and still recover, because the asset price is separate from the network. So yeah, that's just very easy kind of claim to dismiss. That checkerboard quilt just goes to show you Bitcoin's price performance against traditional assets, whether that be gold, whether that be the S&P 500, which is US equities, whether that be emerging markets. There's a high yield bonds. There's a whole bunch of different little assets that sit there. Now, when you look at that and when you think about, okay, what can I add to my portfolio to give me non-correlated returns, you got to add the BTC into there. And if you look, every 3 years, it is the best performing asset, and then it goes to the bottom of the list because it has a correction. But we've seen 2023, stellar year. 2024, the year is not yet done. So, but yeah, year to so far up about 117%. So an absolute stellar year again. And in 2025, we're setting up for a mammoth year. So this is the time to be bullish, guys, because although you could have bought it last year and said, oh, I could have made 117% already, 2025 is going to melt faces in terms of price performance. And that checkerboard quilt that I'm showing you of different assets across different years, that's what's going to show you the genuine, consistent performance of BTC in 2025 is going to be quite stellar if it just history repeats.
This is brilliant. I love this graph. This is actually really awesome, especially as someone that's, I've had crypto for some time, almost 10 years now, and seeing it perform with other assets I've had like gold. This is actually a really good graph, because you can see that Bitcoin's at the top, except in 1 in every 4 years.
Yeah.
And that's why I use that time frame 2 to 4 years. And I want to manage people's expectations here. Yeah. Again, don't invest what you're willing to don't invest what you're not willing to lose. I strongly recommend, if you're starting small, again, I don't do financial advice, but from my own perspective with regards to my own trading, when I put money into Bitcoin, it's like I don't want to see that for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Because the chance is always that it drops down 75%. And it's like, okay, well, if that happens, I put that money aside to actually, I don't want to see it for 2 years. But again, that's totally up to your risk appetite. That's up to you and your financial situation. I want to ask a question now. I used the example of 100,000. Let's go back. What is too small to invest with you guys? Let's say there's someone that's like, they're in their very first job. They're 18 years old. They're just out of school. They might have $1,000 a month to play with. They've saved a grand total of $2,000. Is that too small to start investing with regards to crypto?
No, not at all. I mean, we can take any transaction over $2,000, so that's our minimum, and we don't have any limits nor maximum, so you can trade as much as you like.
Right.
And yeah, like I gave the example of $2,000 a month over the last 8 years, you'd be a multimillionaire by now, right? Yeah. Such a simple strategy. And if you want to do that with me today and invest $2,000 a month for the next 4 to 8 years and become a multimillionaire as well, that's cool. You can. And the reason why I would like to kind of highlight how far Bitcoin has come in such a short period of time and where we're going, if you can just go to that next slide for me, Joel.
Yeah, sure.
Because I wanted to kind of just bring you guys some cool value, guys. We are so early in just Bitcoin alone. It's insanity. A lot of people think that the ship has sailed on it, and that, if I'm 18 or 19 or, or maybe people who have got a bit more of a risk on appetite and they're like, in their working careers, and they go, oh, well, if it doesn't pan out, I can kind of come back to it again later. I want to take on some risk. I want to just hold assets that are a bit more risk on. Bitcoin is tiny Tiny compared to global assets. Look at it compared to real estate. $380 trillion is what global real estate is worth. Global debt markets, the bonds that you just mentioned, which I think are worthless, is $307 trillion. Stock markets around the world is worth $110 trillion, right? Gold itself is still 10 times larger than BTC today. So if you think that the ship has sailed on BTC at 150K Aussie, I'm here to tell you, you have seen nothing.
And I think that's the urgency here. It's that, look, if you've got a bit of money in property as a, like, I don't want to see it for 2 to 4 years, I'd strongly encourage you to think about the idea of putting money into this asset, because there is so much money in other assets that there's going to be a big sort of boom that's going to happen.
Repricing, yes.
Repricing, where the institutional investors are like, you know, the big hedge fund managers, the big, in Australia, superannuation funds, where they're like, you know what, we got 100% of our money in traditional sort of investments for people, and sure, there's a little bit of risk averse, but how about we just put 1%, just 1% of the investment funds that we have into just Bitcoin. Forget about the crap coins. Just Bitcoin. The trillions of dollars that would then pour into Bitcoin would be nuts. And a lot of people, they laughed at me historically. They were like, you know, Bitcoin's never going to $1 million. And I'm like, it's not a question of if, it's about when.
Yes.
Now, that could be in a year, that could be in 5 years, 10 years, but it's about when. And that's what's really encouraging about this, because Bitcoin going to that amount of money, you know, we're talking about 10x, 100x of your money, depending on how early you go in.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'm very, again, I've been doing this since 2017, guys, not as long as yourself.
We came in around the same time. I was 2016, you know what I mean? So
right.
within a year of each other. So
yeah.
Who cares?
In a bit, I'm going to go through a good story and a bad story of my own experience with Bitcoin, which I think will give you guys a bit more perspective and context with regards to cryptocurrencies, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Did you have anything else in this slideshow you wanted to go through?
I want to just go to the next one just
Sure.
real quick, and the following one, sorry.
Yep.
And the next one, sorry, my bad.
It's all right.
Okay, this is the magic stuff that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Now, us Aussies, we love our property, mate. We love property. We're addicted to property, mate.
Yeah.
We love it. We really do. But Australian property market has been in a 40-year bull market, propped up by a bunch of central bank intervention, backed by a bunch of government incentives. All kinds of things has propped up the 40-year bull run in Australian property.
Yeah.
Right. I'm here to tell you that especially for millennials and Zoomers who feel like they're priced out of the property market and think that how am I ever going to do this, and unless you go to the bank of mum and dad, that you're never going to be able to afford a home, and that if you do somehow scrape together a 10-20% deposit on something, you're going to be indebted for the rest of your days, paying off a mortgage that you genuinely cannot afford. I've got the solution for you guys. I've got the solution for you. Here's what you do. 10 years ago, it took you 3,000 Bitcoins to buy the average Australian home in suburban Sydney or Melbourne. Right? Brisbane and Perth are a little bit under that as well, and Adelaide a little bit under that, about 900K. Today, it takes you around 6 Bitcoins. At the time of that chart being created, it was 9 Bitcoins.
Hang on. Bring the chart up. Right. So 1,000 Bitcoins.
3,000.
3,000 10 years ago.
Yes, sir.
At that very peak right there in 2014.
Yep.
And now it's 3? 6, sorry?
6 as of the time of speaking, yes.
That's insane.
All right,
That's insane.
There's this,
That's insane.
you know, at the behest of probably sounding like one of those infomercial guys. But wait, there's more. Right, here we go, boys.
Shoot.
I believe within a 4 to 8 year window, 1 Bitcoin will be worth as much as the average Australian home.
Wow, and that's saying something.
That's my call, right?
That's saying
and
something.
you guys can screenshot this, you can clip this, you can, I'm going to paste this on my forehead. This is how bullish I am, right? I'm telling you guys, this is the easiest way to be able to afford overvalued Australian property, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
You go out and you stack BTC aggressively.
Yeah.
Aggressively. Like, you go out, everything that you've got that you can afford to save as a millennial, as a Zoomer, just chuck that in there. And the more Bitcoin that you can stack over the next few years will allow you to be able to not only retain your Bitcoin, so that way when you do sell, say, 1 unit of it to get the, your dream home somewhere. I mean, if you're looking at Point Piper, you're going to need to save up about 30 Bitcoins, in my opinion. But still, my point that I'm trying to make is that if you're just, looking at the suburban family home for like 3 or 4 bedrooms, couple of bathrooms, nice big yard for the dogs or whatever, that is going to set you back about 900K to $1 million Aussie. That's where we're heading to as BTC AUD continues to climb. Will there be corrections along the way? Absolutely. Right? I'm not here to tell you it's going to go up in one straight line. That's not how it works. No financial asset on the planet works that way. However, if you can give me 4 to 8 years, I can help you flip your 1 Bitcoin into 1 house. That's what I'm offering you today.
Yeah, no, guys, and I don't think that's I don't think that's an overstatement. I genuinely don't. And my audience, they know me as a very sort of like, I'm honest with them when it comes to elections, when it comes to this and that. Do I think the under 16 bill is going to pass? Most likely. My audience knows what that is. The ban on social media for under 16s. It will probably pass the way the numbers are. That's just the reality of it. It's not good news. It doesn't make me feel good to say that, but that's the reality. But this Bitcoin call, I'm like, no, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. I laugh at some of the historic videos of those people, like the BitConnect guy. Bitcoin. There's some great videos.
There's some insanity in this space as well.
But Bitcoin, different story. And that, by the way, that's really saying something, because Sydney is always in the top 3 most overpriced property places in the world, second to Singapore or Hong Kong, because those are sort of
tiny.
There's island sort of locked places. But Sydney, it's so overpriced. You sure we're sort of locked in between the Blue Mountains, the water, the national park to the north and the south. But yeah, I totally think that's the situation that's going to happen, and I'm very excited about where this is going. Did you have another graph in here? Or?
If you just want to go back just 2 slides, if you can, please.
Yep.
And this is just speaking about like where we are in Bitcoin's adoption curve, is that there are as many users of Bitcoin today as there were users of the internet in 1999.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So again, a lot of people look at the price and decide that they let price dictate value, and they let price dictate their decisions. Price is what you pay, ladies and gentlemen. Value is what you get. And Bitcoin, it is incredibly young. It's only a 14-year-old asset. Yet it has had similar adoption curves to the internet, just a little bit faster. And the reason that is the case is that the internet didn't have the internet to grow. The internet network that we all plug into every day, that took time. The infrastructure took time to build out. Now that infrastructure is built out with deep sea cables, satellites, cellular towers, all kinds of things that we have, that entire global infrastructure that allows the internet to, be as easy as connecting to a McDonald's free Wi-Fi or whatever it is, that took time to build up. Bitcoin doesn't have that issue because it can just leverage off the internet, right? And that is so powerful, is that you are now coming into an asset class that had as many users today as the internet did in 1999. So that growth curve is going to be insanity. Could you imagine what Bitcoin's price is going to be in 20 years from now, when Bitcoin is as prolific and as ubiquitous as, say, the internet is today? You could easily have a $5 million, $10 million AUD price on BTC, and then you would no longer be pricing things in 1 Bitcoin because it would just be too large. You'd price things in Satoshis, which is the smallest way you could represent a Bitcoin value. People think that they need to buy 1 Bitcoin. That's not the case. You can buy fractions of it. And then, it wouldn't surprise me within that 20-year period that when you're going down to your local Woolies or your local Coles, that you'll see the Bitcoin price of, a loaf of bread or, 2 liters of milk, for example.
I'm going to go on to some personal stories, but did you want to? Are we done with the?
We're done.
The
we're
PowerPoint,
done.
mate. That was awesome. That's actually really awesome. You gave the presentation of these slides and a few more at the the conference, and wow, a lot of energy at the conference. A lot of people are excited. It's the first sort of conference where the timing of the market's been really, really positive.
Yeah, that's right.
After the election of
I went to the
President Trump.
one in 22 and 2023.
Yeah.
No one was there. It was just me and a bunch of other crypto bros just walking around. It was just like the same 20 people. I'm like, hey, what's up, man? You know, I haven't seen you in like a little while, and now was the first time where I had people that I didn't even know like rocking up. It was really good to see. So we're still very early, ladies and gentlemen. We're still very early.
You're a pioneer, mate. You're a pioneer. Look, I wanted to give people a bit of two stories, and they're both mine. One is a horror story with crypto, and one is actually a very positive story, and where I've reaped the benefits of it. The first one is, look, I first started to get into crypto after that big pump in 2017 with Bitcoin, and a lot of hype, a lot of people getting around it. I was in my second year of uni, and I was like, all right, I'm working construction, I'm paying my taxes, I'm doing my usual thing by the book. And when it comes to the portfolio I'd set up, I started listening to some YouTubers and sort of listening, okay, maybe I should diversify my portfolio, and started setting up wallets and all that. All in all, over the course of about a year, I put about 10 to 15,000 into crypto, and I started day trading. Yeah, which, and Bish is laughing because he's like, mate, big mistake. So the net loss in all of that is I ended up losing like 10 grand. I was emotional about my trading. I learnt a lot. I learnt a lot about the emotion behind trading, when to put in and when not to put in. I learnt a lot about the FOMO feeling, the fear of missing out that a lot of people get when they're like monitoring and they got notifications on their phone and whatever. The net result of that was I lost 10 grand back in 2017, 2018. 10 grand I really needed. I then was like, okay, crypto's not backed by anything. It's not good. It's not this and that. Started looking, I bought into gold and I just sort of put it there and I forgot about it. And then then it spiked again. And I was like, I took another look at it. I started following it. I didn't put money into it until last year. And I realized that there's actually a skill set with regards to this. There is a skill set. You shouldn't be monitoring the crypto markets every day. If you're monitoring it, if you're emotionally trading, you will make a mistake. Not you might, you will make a mistake. And that, I consider that 10 grand very well spent. It was like I went to a trading school and I had to monitor the news and monitor my emotions. I got to know myself really well. But the net result of that was, I lost 10 to 15K. Now I'm telling that to people so you guys get, no bull crap here. That's what your experience will be if you actually try to do this yourself without any guidance whatsoever and just following YouTubers. So I've been there, I've done that. The positive story is last year, I did a bit of trading. I had a bit of, I started to slowly dip my toe in the market. Someone donated to me a Bitcoin. They donated a whole Bitcoin back when it was 45,000, mid last year, early to mid last year. And with the knowledge that I had, I was like, I know where the market's going. I know where things are happening. And with the knowledge of the my own emotional state with regards to trading, over the course of June last year till March this year, I traded that coin. And as you know, Bitcoin reached 110,000 Aussie dollars over that period of time. I bought and sold it just in a little bits. I pretty much only set and forget it. I sold little bits off when it was at the right moment. Over the course of that coin's life, I sold it at $105 out of it. That's $105,000 is the value I got out of it. And the peak price in that period was 110,000. Now you're probably listening to that and you're like, that's a pretty good job, Joel. That is partly how I was able to afford this setup that we're sitting in.
Love that.
I don't have it. I'm looking to get more Bitcoin, but the point is that's how, what you guys are enjoying here, the studio setup, what I've been setting up, the office, the war room. It wasn't just from your donations. It was also from my knowledge of crypto trading and being able to build what you see around you. And I've wanted to hold off on telling you about this because I want you to have the right guidance, because as I said in the first example, you can have a real horror story with regards to it without the proper guidance. I don't want you to go through what I went through, where you might not put 10 grand in or 15 grand in like I did. You might put 100 in. You might put $1 million in.
That'd be
and
nice.
try and day
Put a million in.
but then try and day trade it.
Don't do that. Well,
So-
congratulations, man. You've really shown what the power of Bitcoin's all about. Like this, congratulations, dude. That's really impressive.
No, look, and as you know, man, look, I'm hoping to, I'm hoping to put a lot more into crypto. Unfortunately for my sake, Bisher remarked to me yesterday at the conference. He's like, Joel, throw everything you've got into Bitcoin. Now's the time. And I want to. Don't get me wrong. I really, really want to. But unfortunately, the last this year has been nuts. I was just doing an accounting of all the. I was just talking to Ramy about all the achievements we've done this year with regards to. And one line is like an election. So there's about 15 major achievements we've had this year, including obviously all the libertarians we got elected in New South Wales and Victoria and local elections, the misinformation bill, the submissions we all did, the defeat of that, all these different skirmishes around. There's about 15 major ones this year. And I'm behind about maybe 30 to 40 grand right now. So I'm like, I don't have a lot of savings, but we have some great wins on the books.
Right.
But when I do get out of this hole, I 100% want to be looking at Bitcoin. I want to be looking at what's going on there so that I can get more involved politically.
Absolutely.
So because we want the legislation in Australia to not go the direction of stuff like the misinformation bill. We want it towards individual liberties, freedom. We don't want this sort of legislation like we saw with the Anti-Money Laundering Act. We want to see freedom with regards to this stuff. So that's why I want to connect everyone with Stormrake, because you guys are very much experienced hands. You've been at this as longer than I have, and you've got a great team around you. Many of whom I've actually met. I've met 3 of your colleagues,
Nice.
and they're great people. I've met the traders. They're very competent people. They're always traveling around Australia, and I'm really looking forward to it. And you don't have to just be in Australia.
That's right.
To have your services as well.
Correct.
Mate, did you have anything to add from that little rant?
Oh man, I'm so happy to hear what Bitcoin has done for you, because like for me, it's given me a business, it's given my family financial freedom. My wife doesn't have to work. I retired my mum a couple of years ago, and as any Lebanese man should, we should always retire our mothers. They shouldn't be working. So I did the right thing. She doesn't have to work again, which is awesome.
God bless you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's thanks to BTC, you know what I mean? And it's like, this is the financial revolution I'm talking about. And the fact that you guys, amongst others, like, Tim from Beat the Reset is a near and dear friend of mine who was war gaming against the misinformation, disinformation bill. He actually got us connected in the first place a few months ago, which was awesome. So shout out Tim from Beat the Reset. And look, at the end of the day, we're here to help liberate people. Bitcoin is freedom money. Right, it's separate from the state, it's separate from any government on the planet, and that's really powerful. So if you want to protect your freedom of speech, you need to have freedom of wallet, and you need to have freedom of wealth, and the easiest way to do that, ladies and gentlemen, is BTC, because when you're wealthy, nobody can tell you what to say or what you can do.
Amen to that. Now, look, the last question I've got to answer, because a lot of people have, this is the one question, major question we got on the Rumble before it went down. Someone said, "Okay, Joel, that's all great, but what about taxes?" And to that you remarked, "I don't want to hear about the tax side. Talk to your accountants."
That's right. I'm a crypto broker through and through, ladies and gentlemen. Look at me. I'm the textbook crypto broker, right? Yeah. You don't want to have me as your accountant. I can recommend a few names if you want a tax specialist who works in cryptocurrency, specializes in cryptocurrency tax for Australians. I'd be more than happy to give you a recommendation. But I'm not a tax guy. I'm a crypto broker, so I'm the best at what I do when it comes to getting you in and out of crypto investments, making sure your portfolio is managed correctly, giving you safe access and secure access to the markets. That's what I specialize in. Taxes, you need to go to an accountant, and if you want one, I can recommend one.
That's awesome, guys. From a personal perspective, with me, what's great? I have those capital losses back from 2017. I can
call them forward.
Yeah, because it's an investment, guys. Yeah. When it's treated as an investment on the accounting books. Obviously, speak to your accountant about this, and they'll run you through it all. But for me, I had that 10 to 15 grand loss back in 2017. If I have capital gains later, I can use that to offset.
100%.
And so that helps reduce taxes and everything. But you do have to. You'd have to declare these things to your accountants, to sort it out with your accountants, the right way to structure it, so you can Minimize your taxes. Nothing wrong with minimizing your taxes. The government, it's not like they're spending your money very good, as Kerry Packer remarked.
Correct.
And so look, that's between you and your accountants. I hope that works out really well for you. But there's no reason why.
And to add to that, our fees are GST inclusive. So any fees you pay us, you can claim back and come tax time as well. And what's also really important to note is that we'll give you really comprehensive reporting at the end of financial year for all of your accounts with us. So you might have a super fund, an SMSF that you're needing to pass audit. We'll give you a comprehensive CSV as well as a holdings report. That's really easy for you to just hand over to your accountant and go through, and that'll be provided for all the accounts that you hold with Stormrake whilst you're investing in crypto. So majority of our high net wealth clients' investments actually occurs through the SMSF vehicle or a family trust is where most of those ones are going through. We've had no issues passing audit through all of them. And these are pretty heavily regulated entities that have to have pretty stringent reporting requirements. And then if you're investing through like a corporate account or an individual account, there's not as much due diligence and focus on those kind of types of accounts. But nonetheless, we'll still provide you the same reports that you can be able to just hand over to your accountant, say, here's what I'm doing with my crypto. And it's an absolute breeze. It gets done in 10 minutes. So there's no stress when it comes to the investing. And, because I'm managing that for you, and there's no stress come tax time because we'll hand over those reports. And we just keep on winning, guys. We're going to get wealthy. And that's what I love about this space.
And that's what's great about these trading platforms. You can actually export your trading so that you can give that to the accountants. They can look at that, and the accountants know what to do with this stuff. Yeah. It may not seem like it sometimes, some accountants, but if your accountant doesn't know what to do with this, find a better accountant. That's and right. Bisher's got some contacts. But Ramy, do we have any other questions before we close this up?
Most of the people were just asking about the accountant stuff. Yeah. Well, I've got a horror story to share.
Yeah, mate, shoot.
How about that? So, so back in the day, when I used to shop online, I didn't feel safe to use my own debit card to purchase things online, and I ended up buying 77 Bitcoins.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I actually a bit more than that, but I ended up. Well, my brother ended up convincing me that I should use these Bitcoins to subscribe to rapidshare.com.
Oh, it's now gone.
Well, what was left of it? Just pretty much
you paid for it in Bitcoins. Oh, man.
What was left of it, which was pretty much nothing, ended up giving me $5,000 worth of, or $10,000 worth of IOTA and Cardano. One went down, one went up.
Right.
And I gotta, and this is why I think this podcast is important, is that eventually I was very close to 70x my $10,000 investment that was left over. But I listened to a friend. Never do that. Listen to a professional.
Yeah.
I got a pulled rug, whatever these things are called.
Yeah. Rug got pulled out from under you.
Yeah. So I went from about to make a lot of money, to pretty much lose a lot of money out of pocket as well. So always listen to a professional, I guess.
I'm into that.
I appreciate that. I mean, and this is the thing that I always try to advocate for, is that people come to me as a crypto broker, and I'm really glad that you shared that story, Ramy. That takes a lot of courage. That they want some sort of get rich quick scheme. They want to come to me and they'll be like, oh, I can buy this and I can make a 20x overnight. I'm like, I'm here to tell you that BTC is going to give you a 10 to 20x in 4 to 8 years. You just have to be patient, right? And that is the hardest thing for people to just actually sit on, is that patience level. And as a professional investor and trader, and somebody who's built a business around this, my job is to help you not make the mistakes that countless investors make when it comes to this space. I need you to just get out of your own way, and just having that other person on the other end of the line where you can pick up the phone and be like, is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? Does this make sense?
Yeah.
That soundboard where you can have somebody who has been in the trenches for close to a decade now is so important. And I want to serve you guys. I want to make you guys wealthy, and I want to get your wealth outside of the Aussie dollar. I want to get your wealth outside of the system, so that way you can be truly free, truly wealthy, and truly liberated. That's my job. That's my mission.
Absolutely. And you're always across so many different cases and stories, and you've been in the industry for, we'll be coming up on 8-9 years now. But again, the amount of times for me where I mentally had to work through that and emotionally had to work through that, because it's an emotional thing, trading, and be like, oh no, Bitcoin's dropped from 25K, back when 25K was the high, it's dropped from 25K down to like 5K. Oh, I should sell out now, and because I might go lower to 1K. It's like, no, don't sell. Hold it. This is why I say the magic number, 2 years. Just when you put it in, you set and forget. Set and forget. And having that person, because I'm not going to pick up the phone, guys. You don't have a phone to just pick me up. I don't get I'm not here as your crypto broker. That's where you can talk to these guys. Going to be like, no, this is totally normal. I've been through this myself. This is what we do in this situation. We're going to do this and that. Or you're just going to set and forget. This is why it's really handy to pick up the phone and someone can walk you through that emotional response. And that's the thing about government and the whole COVID thing. It was through the emotional response that they were able to bring in totalitarianism. It was through the emotional response of, your grandma's going to die, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, or 9/11. Oh, 9/11 happened, we have to invade a freaking sovereign country. That's how these things happen. It's when you're in that state and you're not in that stoic, in control, in your power sort of state that that bad decisions are made when you're like that. And that's what this is about. This is about individual freedom. It's about empowering you through your money, through freedom of speech. And so, obviously, we've gotten on like a house on fire ever since we met. And I'm just really glad we could make this happen, man. I really am. So look, if people want to open an account with you, click the link in my bio, click the Stormrake, open an account with Stormrake. You'll see our link there. That'll actually help us with the show as well. We get a little kickback from that as well. But above all else, I want you guys to get control over your money. I want you to start investing in your future. I want 2025, 2026, 2027 to be big years for you and your family. And I want you to pass that knowledge on to your kids in this crazy world which we're coming up to. And I want you to be powerful.
That's awesome. And just a quick little note on that link. Joel is a master negotiator. This is why he's going to have a fantastic career in, making sure the politicians, agree to his wishes. He did twist my arm a little bit and say that, we got to look after the community here that follows me around, and I get to take care of them because I love my audience. We got the discount rate of, usually it's 3% for our brokerage rate, but we've knocked it down to 2% for Joel and the community there. So we really love you guys. Appreciate you giving me the time and the platform to chat about what I love most, which is Bitcoin. And because of, your masterful negotiation skills,
you're too kind.
We've gone from 3 down to 2% on the brokerage rate, and that's all you pay when it comes to transacting with us.
Sign me up.
God bless you. God bless you guys. Thank you so much, guys. I love you very much. Again, this is Ramy's last podcast for the year. He will be back with us next year. I will keep the podcast going while he's gone. But Ramy, thank you so much. I hope you have a good holiday.
Well, thank you. Merry Christmas to everybody and Happy New Year.
Absolutely. And Bisher, thank you for coming in. Can't wait to have you on again.
Thanks for having me, sir.
All right. I'll see you guys later. Ciao.